Let's dive right into today's explainer. We're exploring a truly fascinating paradox found in the natural world, one that bridges biology, philosophy, and historical texts. And to get us rolling, we're going to start with a very simple, yet honestly pretty profound thought experiment. So, I want you to actively picture a bee in your mind right now. What's its absolutely most defining trait? Well, for a lot of us, the very first thing our brain jumps to is the sting, right? The sharp pain, the perceived danger. But then, almost instantly, we remember its other main job. We're looking at a creature with this crazy dual nature. It can inflict sudden, lingering pain with venom. Yet from that exact same tiny insect, we get one of the sweetest, most complex, and historically healing foods on the planet: honey. And that brings us to what we can call the great contradiction in nature. Because when you really stop to think about it, the biological contradiction here is almost unbelievable. On one hand, you have the poisonous stinger. It's a highly active defense mechanism, essentially a biological weapon designed to cause pain and drive threats away. Now contrast that right alongside sweet honey. This is a substance that doesn't just taste amazing, but actively provides healing, nourishment, and pure energy. How in the world did these two extreme polar opposites, literally a weapon of pain and an elixir of healing, exist completely intertwined inside one tiny bug?
To make sense of this, let's explore a concept known as the second truth and the idea of deliberate design.
The text we're analyzing today relies on a framework called the second truth, which was authored by the Islamic scholar Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. Basically, this philosophical perspective looks at all these wild contradictions in nature and interprets them as evidence of intentional, divine generosity rather than just random coincidence. It asks us to look at the natural world and, instead of just seeing mere accident, evolutionary chance, or chaos, to see deliberate, merciful design. It really challenges us to look right past that surface level of danger. There's a quote from the source that just perfectly hits the nail on the head here. It says, "Feeding us the sweetest healing honey through the hand of a poisonous insect. What a beautiful generosity. What a delicate mercy." The sheer philosophical wonder in that statement is profound. It's asking us to just pause our busy lives for a second and truly appreciate the immense, almost poetic contrast of receiving something so deeply beneficial from a creature that, by all outward appearances, is armed and dangerous.
And you know, the bee isn't just some solitary anomaly either. Think about the silkworm for a second, a completely armless insect. Yet the result of its daily work is the absolute softest, most delicate fabric known to humanity: silk. We have an insect with literally no hands, no fingers, no complex weaving tools whatsoever, managing to naturally produce a fabric so refined that it has driven global trade, luxury, and economics for millennia.
So the crucial takeaway the source is driving at here is that this is designed generosity, not coincidence. These highly specific, wildly unlikely biological details, a venomous insect serving us sweet honey, a completely armless worm weaving incredibly fine silk, they're interpreted by this philosophy as pointing directly toward a purposeful arrangement. They are meant to show care and provision for humanity, rather than just being a random series of chaotic accidents.
But how does all of this hold up to the scientific perspective and this inherent biological paradox?
Well, modern biology actually thoroughly validates the complexity this philosophy was highlighting over a century ago. First off, the honey production process itself is just mind-bogglingly complex. To put this into perspective, just to make 1 single pound of honey, bees have to tap around 2 million flowers. They are perfectly orchestrating chemical changes to that nectar using their own unique enzymes. Second, honey's antibacterial properties aren't just old wives' tales. They are heavily documented and clinically proven. It's naturally antimicrobial and actively staves off infection. Today, it continues to be studied with absolute admiration in modern labs. So the rigorous science completely backs up that initial wonder.
This actually reveals something truly fascinating about the longevity of good observation. We're looking at a full century of admiration here. 100 years ago, Bediüzzaman highlighted this healing from poison paradox in nature through the lens of philosophy and theology. Fast forward to today, and modern laboratories are scientifically documenting those intricate antibacterial properties, even using medical-grade honey in advanced wound care in hospitals right now. It's amazing how a philosophical observation made a century ago harmoniously aligns with what scientists are actively proving today.
Let's trace this back a bit further and look at the Quranic symbolism of the bee.
Our source text shows exactly where this whole philosophical perspective originates, tracing it all the way back to verses 68 and 69 of Surah An-Nahl in the Qur'an. It reads,
From their bellies comes a drink of varying colors, containing healing for mankind. The text highlights how this foundational verse directly describes the exact biological process of the bee producing a healing substance. It's this very specific imagery that ties the entire philosophy together, inspiring the whole idea that observing nature's contradictions can lead us to a much deeper understanding of intentional design.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I've got a final question for you to ponder. Do you know of another example in nature that looks dangerous but is actually incredibly beneficial? We've talked a lot about bees and honey, silkworms and silk, but the natural world is literally full of these brilliant paradoxes. I want you to really think about it. Can you identify any other creatures, plants, or natural phenomena that perfectly embody this paradox of danger and profound benefit? Thanks for exploring this incredible intersection of nature, philosophy, and science with us today. Keep observing and definitely keep questioning the amazing world around us.